Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, introduce myself, I'm James, and today we're going to be diving into something kind of been working on for the last 12 months or so now. This is Frank, my 2008 Range Rover L322. Frank isn't any old Range Rover, as you can probably see now. He's been a project I've been pouring a lot of time and effort, sort of blood, sweat and tears into, and a fair bit of money in getting him ready for what might be my biggest adventure yet. It's a 5,000 mile journey to Nordkapp, the northernmost point of Europe in the middle of winter. In this video, I'm going to take you through everything about Frank, what it was like when I bought him, the challenges I've faced, the repairs I've had to do and the upgrades I've done, and how I've turned him into a kind of camper, a solo camper that hopefully can survive Arctic conditions. There have been some highs, there have been plenty of lows, and more than a few lessons learned along the way. So grab a coffee, sit back, and let me introduce you to Frank. Let's get started. So this is Frank. He was a perfectly standard 2008 4.2 Supercharged petrol when I bought him 12 months ago. The idea was we wanted to do something adventurous as a family, go and visit some places and try something new. So I've restored a few cars in the past and a few motorbikes. So we thought, let's get something that's reliable and rugged and can go anywhere. So we bought a Range Rover, probably one of the world's most unreliable cars, but still, he's been a great adventure and we've done lots and lots to him. Let's head back to the house and we're going to walk you around all the bits and pieces we have done and all the changes we've made, all the modifications we've made and how we've prepped him ready for Nordkapp. Okay, so when we bought the car, the first thing I did was to really get it through a local 4x4 specialist. So I picked a 4x4 company in Chippenham to just give it a good once over and see if there's anything obvious that needed doing to it that I'd missed. It did have a fresh MOT on it, which was great with no advisories, so that was a really good place to start. But I was aware of certain areas that did need a bit of work. There's a little bit of rust underneath the one of the jacking points, and I could see some rust coming through on the rear wheel arch, which is again common for these. But I thought it'd be a good idea to get it through a good inspection and to see what they said. We were actually reasonably impressed as to the kind of condition the car was in. The only issue we had was with the subframe, the rear subframe. That had enough rust on it on one of the hangers that it would have been, well, they would have probably failed it on an MOT. So despite the fact that it went through an MOT without even an advisory, it's interesting. And with the new rules about repairing subframes, they're telling me they couldn't actually repair it. So what I went and did was, in fact, I found a second-hand subframe from another L322 4.2. They are specific to the 4.2, which is a bit frustrating because there's not many of them around. But I found a company called G-Tech, I think it is, in Melksham, and they sourced that for me, dismantled it, and I went and picked that up. I had it sandblasted and powder coated, and then that, along with some other bits, I took over to a company called Broadlane in Westbury. They then removed the old subframe, stripped it down of all the parts we are going to continue to use. We replaced all of the control arms, all the gear linkages, all of the bushes, all that kind of stuff, as it seemed like a good opportunity to change those there and then. So it all went back together okay. We took the opportunity also, I think it was Southwest rust proofing. They also stipple gunned underneath, behind where the subframe fits to the actual body, to get rid of all the rust and corrosion behind that, and then did some rust prevention. So working from the bottom up, we have replaced pretty much everything. Now this isn't because I'm being over the top necessarily. A lot of it is because it was due to be done not too long a time. So all of the brakes have been done front and back. So we've done discs and pads, and we've also done the e-brake shoes with that as well. So all of the brakes have been done, adjusted, and are ready to go. And the history of the actual car itself, I found that it had already had new rear shocks, and since then I've had the front bags replaced as well. The shocks themselves were in good condition, so I simply had those taken out, brought back over to me. I then stripped them down, repaired all the rust, all that kind of stuff, all that kind of crud on them, rust prevented them, and then painted them up ready to go for the new airbags, which were then fitted to the car. Again, because we had the opportunity, we decided to replace all of the linkages, all the drop arms, ARB bushes, all that kind of stuff in the front as well. So all of the running gear at the front has been now completely replaced. Okay, so along with all the actual mechanical bits and pieces we've done, I've also had a full service on the car. So plugs, oil, the auxiliary belts have been done as well. All the coolant has been changed to one that suits a colder temperature, as is the oil. I've actually gone for a slightly thinner oil. I've gone for a 0W30 instead of a 5W30. That might divide the room, but a lot of the experts say that's better for the car, especially in the winter. We'll see how that goes up at the Nordkapp, but the likelihood is when I come back, if I'm not going to plan any more really wintry trips, we'll probably switch back to 530. So all of the filters were done, plugs were done, and it is completely serviced and ready to go. The tyres were needing doing soon, so rather than actually rather than replacing those tyres on the standard wheels that I had, I knew I wanted to replace them for steel wheels. So I took the opportunity at that point to buy these steel wheels, which fit absolutely perfectly over above the Brembo calipers I've got on the car. And then put these Cooper Discoverer AT3s, which have been absolutely brilliant. They're snow rated, which was handy because when I fit these, I wasn't planning the Nordkapp trip. So as it happens, they are absolutely fine because they've got the 3 peaks and the snowflake on the tyre, so they are okay for snow tyres. So what else did we do? We changed out the hubcaps because it didn't come in with any hubcaps, these steel wheels, and I've put on these these new Defender hubcaps, and the actual wheel nuts themselves are also from new Defender. And I've wired them on so the hubcaps don't come off. They have a tendency to knock off if you go something really, really bumpy. So they are held on as well. So what else did we do? So from the back, we decided to, well, mainly because I'm a bit of a child, I decided to change the exhaust. That was one of the things I knew I wanted to do as soon as I bought this thing because they just sound absolutely epic when you have the exhaust changed. So we switched out the really heavy silencer out the back and switched it for near enough a straight through exhaust, but they do come with each one has a silencer itself, so it does sound absolutely epic, but it is also about 20 kilos lighter than the standard exhaust. So what else have we done with regards to maintenance? I think that's most of the maintenance we've done. We fixed any bits in the car that weren't working. Oh, I know what we did. So we did a lot of work with the suspension. Okay, so we touched on the fact that we did that the shock's been done at the back, the bags have been done at the front, so the actual units themselves are actually really good. These things are quite prone to suspension issues, and that's because of the air suspension. Now, strictly speaking, it's actually very simple. People do tend to freak out about the air suspension on these things, and it's one of the key reasons why they have such a bad reputation. But in fact, it's very, very straightforward. There's a compressor in the boot. There's a single gallery tank underneath the passenger side. It's underneath the driver's side, so on the right side here in the UK, under where the sill is. And there's 2 blocks, one at the back and one at the front, which divide the front, the left and the right suspension off. And it really is as simple as that. So when we have all the issues, and we do get a lot of suspension issues, 9 times out of 10, it's height sensors. But what can happen with this car, and what gives it the worst reputation, is probably the fact that we have a cascading effect of errors. And that can be incredibly overwhelming and quite frightening if you don't really know these cars very well. And if you haven't got a decent OBD tool, like a gap IID tool or something like that, or a topped on tool, you really have no idea what's going on. So for example, I had an ABS sensor go. In fact, I had several ABS sensors go, which I've now replaced all 4 of them. Now, an ABS sensor going caused a suspension fault because it couldn't obviously read the wheel speed. That then caused all the hill descent control to stop working. That then caused the rest of the suspension to stop working. and it slammed itself down to the floor because of an ABS sensor. So that's reasonably frightening, you know, for everything just to stop working because of an ABS sensor. Now, as it happens, although that was the cause, there were several other things wrong with my system. So having that gap tool really helps, and I managed to work my way back up and work out what it was. But with the ABS sensors all fixed, the height level sensors, I had 2 of those go as well, so I've replaced all 4. I also carry a spare set of height sensors on this trip because they do tend to go and get knocked around underneath there. But with that, everything is working absolutely fine. The compressor needed a rebuild, so we did that as well in one of the earlier videos. And again, I'll put links to these as and when I go, really. So we rebuilt the compressor with a rebuild kit, which is about 60 odd quid. That works brilliantly now. We also had a point where the exhaust valve on the compressor was bunged up with ceramic dust from when it wasn't working properly, so then it stopped letting air out, so it wouldn't go down. There's all sorts of things like that. But again, if you have the right tool and it gives you the right codes, you can work out what the problems are. So it's quite straightforward. Okay, so after getting the suspension and the brakes done, we decided to have a sort of grinding noise, which I've mentioned in some of the other videos, checked out. And as I also mentioned before in some of those build videos, we did discover that the diff needed rebuilding. So along with all the suspension work, we also got the rear diff completely reconditioned, all rebuilt with Land Rover parts, sandblasted, painted, all that kind of stuff. And the transfer box we found out at the same time needed doing as well. So the rear diff and the transfer box have both been completely reconditioned. And we've also replaced the prop shaft because the carrier bearing had also gone pretty bad as well. So the carrier bearing went, so we got that done at the same time. And they don't tend to change the carrier bearings on their own anymore. They tend to change the whole prop shaft with the carrier bearing as well. So from the front transfer box, we've got the transfer box, prop shaft, carrier bearing, rear drive shaft, rear differential, beg your pardon. And we've done both of the drive shafts at the back, and we have got new drive shafts at the front as well. So all the running gear has also been replaced. Okay, so with all the maintenance we did and the wheels going on there as well, we wanted to make sure that the car was slightly lifted. So the tyres we put on there, these Cooper Discoverers, are quite a bit bigger than the standard road tyres that were on there, although the wheels themselves are actually the same diameter. We decided to go with Proud Rhino lift rods, which kind of tricks the system into thinking it's lower than it is, and it raises it up. So I went for a 2.5 inch lift kit. So that is a software lift, which isn't necessarily the best, and I think we'll go into that in a bit more detail a bit later on. There are other ways to lift the Range Rover, but it does work okay. I have since lowered it back down by about 1 inch, so it's running about 1.5 inches higher than it would by standard. That gave it a bit more room for those tyres to turn on the front specifically, because they did tend to scrub a little bit. The back right tyre as well did tend to scrub on the filler tube that goes down inside the inner wheel arch. And again, these are things that are quite common when putting bigger wheels on the Range Rover. So giving it that lift was great. I gave it a different kind of stance, but it did massively affect the road handling. It felt much more top heavy, and that extra 1.5 inches was surprising. It really did surprise me. So it kind of made my mind up that I wanted to put wheel spacers on the car to kind of widen that track and give it a bit more stability. So I went for 30mm spacers. I had them made because it's difficult trying to transform a car that had alloy wheels to have spacers to then fit with steel wheels because of the way the actual flange is. They are still they have still got a centering ring, but they are completely flat. There's no shoulder to that ring. It's literally just a 90-degree ring placed basically on or drilled onto that spacer. So I had to have those made, and it was probably about twice as much as it would be to buy just standard spacers, but I bought 30s all round, and it transformed the car, gave it that wider track again, made it much more stable and much happier. So that was great. We did have a front suspension, front left bag that actually split, And this is one of the things that I think is worth remembering as well when you lift your car, is that it does put, as a standard ride height, it does put the bags in a slightly different height and position than they've been in really for however old the car is. And this is 2008, so this is now what, 16 years old, 17 years old. So those bags, and they were the original bags, they've been sitting at a standard height in a certain way for 17 odd years. So when you change that, it changes where that pressure point is on those bags. And I think that was one of the causes of my bag splitting. So I had one bag split, and again, it dropped the car to the floor, which is a bit annoying because I've got bigger tyres and it won't go anywhere with mine. So that is one of the disadvantages of having the big tyres and a software lift. That's pretty much what I did on the suspension. So we got the lift kit, repaired all the parts. We all got new control arms, front and back. The suspension is pretty good, pretty good to go. We are still having a small leak, and I think that's on the gallery tube itself, the cylinder. It's a slow leak, but it is letting down a pressure over a period of time. It's not coming out the bags. The car's not ending up in the morning on a different angle or anything like that at all. It is coming out the gallery tube. And again, that's not something that's massively important for this trip. We can probably get away with that. Famous last words. But when I get back, I will change that, and that should basically repair all parts of the actual suspension itself. So with that being done, that was kind of the maintenance and the kind of the first part of what we wanted to do with the general stance of the car. And then it was time to convert the car into an Overlander. So the first major project that we wanted to do, so this is one I wanted to do with the boys, was to actually make our own roof rack. This was quite a big project actually, but the roof racks are pretty expensive. The problem with the Range Rover is that there aren't many aftermarket parts, especially for overlanding. If you've got a Defender or a Discovery, you're overwhelmed with choice. With a Range Rover, there's kind of two. One's by Front Runner, and the other one, I can't actually remember the name of it at the moment. Okay, so one's Front Runner, and I can't what the other one is. I will try and figure that one out. But they were in excess of £1,000 for the roof rack, and at the time I didn't really want to spend that money. Now I've seen a few people on YouTube build them using this aluminium profile, so I thought, yeah, I can do that. So for I think around about £550, we bought a circular saw to actually basically do the work, and we bought all of the materials from various different places, and we built the roof rack, which actually I'm incredibly pleased with, and it has worked really, really well for us. I'll put some videos, some links to the video playlist that we've got for actually building the roof rack, but it has served us very, very well, and it can take some weight as well up there now. So we'll look at it, it's holding, 41 kilos on the spare tyre. We've got the roof box up there, the recovery boards, and I also have a couple of Front Runner jerry cans that sit up there as well. So the roof rack itself has served us really, really well. We had that for the Shetlands, and that has been great. On the side of the roof rack, we've got the ditch lights. So these 3 LED lights, and they work from the switch panel, which we'll talk about a bit later. And they have been really handy as well on those dark nights, especially when you're reversing down sort of paths and things like that. When we were in Shetlands, we were literally on a cliff's edge on the way back from a friend's house and not being able to see anything. So spotlights on, everything on, just so we can see where we're going. So they are very, very useful. And so that has been a great kind of addition. On the back, just talking about lights, we've also got these additional reverse lights. These are geared up, they're 2-way reverse lights, so they are either on by default, so I can just turn them on and they run off a leisure battery, or they can come on with the reverse lights themselves. So that's the same kind of wiring setup that I've got for the spotlights on the front of the car as well. So I pop a couple of switches down, and they then work with the high beams and the reverse lights as and when they go on, so I don't need to worry about remembering them. So they are working really, really well for us. Should we move around to the front spotlights? Okay, on the front we've got the pair of aux beams which are incredibly bright, I have to admit. I think they're the 360 Pros, but I'll have to double check that, and I'll put that up, a link up on there as well. These are really straightforward to wire. They come with a full wiring kit. And again, like I said, they're wired up either to come on with the high beams or to come on independently or just to stay off. I bought mine with these gel caps as well. So these are amber caps which you can then take off, and you can use without as well. So in foggy conditions, these are really useful, because obviously that yellow light is just slightly better than having white light. So that was that. If I can get it back on again. There we go. So, what else did we do with the lights? That was it with regards to lighting, and we'll go through the internal electrics a bit later. Cosmetically, I did make a few changes. As you can see, I think everyone's got to put their own kind of stamp on their car. So we went for this bronze colour, which is actually a Ford bronze colour, which we've now done all around all the different parts of the car as well. So that's just how, the colour that we liked, matched up with the wheels. So we've got it on the bonnet at the top there, around the fog light rings, and this part of the bumper as well. You'll see it as it's also on the side vents of the car as well. I don't think it's anywhere on the back. I'm pretty sure it's not on the back. Yeah, that's the kind of colour that we liked. The most significant aesthetic change is probably the Raptor lining. We knew we were going to be doing quite a lot of off-road, and I'm not particularly precious about getting the car dirty or scratched, but the issue with scratching is that it can lead to rusting. So as much as possible, appreciate the bumpers are plastic, but where in any areas that we could protect as much as possible, we decided to Raptor line. So this Raptor lining is absolutely brilliant. It's incredibly addictive. It's really good finish, incredibly hard wearing. So we've Raptor lined the bumper, the grille. We've also Raptor lined all of the under panels of the doors as well. So this prevents any of that, almost like just the worst of the scratching along the sides. We've also done the rear bumper, and we've also done these D pillar covers as well, just to kind of complete the look. So this Raptor lining stuff is brilliant. Quite frankly, I'd Raptor line the whole car, and I have seen people do that as well. You can get coloured Raptor, but I just went with the standard black. But that's kind of my look. So from the outside, I think that's mostly it. What did we do? We've put in these top wind deflectors as well. They are not just for the look, although I do quite like the look. When you're sleeping in the car, you do obviously create an awful lot of condensation. So the best way to combat that is to leave your windows open a crack, probably literally just like half an inch or an inch, cup both sides with the heater on, and that stops that condensation building up. So that's very, very useful. It stops all the snow and wind and rain and stuff driving into the car if you have got your windows open. So that's great. So that is pretty much the outside done. I did put some new door handle caps on as well, because they were really gross. I did go with LED side repeaters. Again, just a cheap addition. What else did we do? Yes, we did also buy the wind deflector as well. That is a front runner wind deflector that I looked at the measurements, and I worked out I could actually fit it to my own roof rack, which is blooming handy. So that fits up there on the front of my rack and does a really good job. It's well worth having a wind deflector on there because it does reduce that noise down. I think that is it from the outside, isn't it? I did get the windows tinted, not because I want to look like a drug dealer or anything, but purely because I didn't really want people looking in the car, especially with all the stuff I've got in there at the moment. So the back windows are as heavily tinted as I could get them. You really can't see in when I'm in it. This one you can see, I don't know whether you can actually see, but I've actually got these insulated panels on the inside, which I'll show you what I made later on. You can just about see them through the window, I don't know if you can. They're permanently in the back here at the minute, but I stick them to all the other windows, including the windscreen and the rear window, and that just makes it a bit warmer in there when I'm sleeping. So, let's have a look at what's in the boot. Okay, so now I'm going to be going to Nordkapp in about a week, so we're kind of stacked up and packed up, ready to go. So I can't show you a great deal in the back here, but I can tell you what we've got. So this build, again, which I'll put a link to the videos that we did to build these. This is completely purpose built for the Range Rover, and it sits in the kind of cutout panel where the boot floor would normally go. Working away kind of from the bottom up from here, I'll do my best to kind of show you this, but it might not be very easy because again it's so packed out. But we decided to build, this was actually for a fridge, so when we went to Shetlands this was used as the fridge slide, but at the moment it's being used for everything else. I'll show you. So it's a bit of a mess, so apologies, but we've got, right, this is a diesel tank. Now that's odd for a petrol car, but that is because, I don't know if you can tip yourself in there, Arlo, who's my cameraman for the day. You might be able to see in there. Let me get a torch as well. So that there is an 8 kilowatt max speeding rods diesel heater, which is most definitely needed for this car. So that is all plumbed in, and you can see that brown tube at the back, that feeds up into the actual car itself, and you'll see that in just a moment. So that fuel line comes all the way up onto here, into this is a little speedboat marine tank, which is absolutely ideal for this kind of purpose. And it's just all on quick release. So if I need to take the tank out to fill it up, I don't need to worry about tipping diesel all over the car. I can literally remove the quick release like that and spill diesel everywhere. Take the tank out and then basically fill it all back up again. Okay, so that's the diesel tank for the diesel heater. That's its sole purpose. That's all it's for. Now going on to the ferry, with DFDS we found out you can't take fuel tanks whether they're empty or full. So I've emptied this out and I've basically put that in the TT. So all the diesel's gone into Joanne's car. But I did phone DFDS and they've put a note on my ticket to say I'm allowed to bring this because it's for the diesel heater, but you can't take any other tanks. So this trip I'm not taking my front runner jerry cans. Alongside this I've got my Blue Tea. This is my AC 180, which was kind of as big as I'd needed it to go. You can go massive with these things. I just didn't need anything bigger. And everything that runs my internal stuff overnight, apart from the diesel heater, runs from this. So I have an extension lead which goes through, again, which we'll show you a bit later. And then we've also got a Bluetti Charger 1, which is installed back behind the panel over here with all the other bits and gubbins. And again, it's better that I show you a link to the video on YouTube already, rather than trying to pull all that out and actually show you. So the Bluetti is charged by the Charger 1, and that charges really, really quickly. It's like a 750 watt charger that comes from the alternator. So that's already geared up, ready to go. That charges the Bluetti. This is the plug and extension lead that goes off, and that provides me all my power inside the car. The diesel heater itself is actually powered by a leisure battery or secondary battery in that back corner. And again, you'll see the links for those videos either on the screen now or in the description. Then what do we do? So then also what we've got, so for the Range Rover, they're a little bit notorious for having power drains and battery issues. So, and me being a paranoid person, I wanted to make sure I wasn't going to have any of those issues. So I've kind of double whammied it. With the leisure battery we've got there, I've got a DC-DC controller, and so that sends power from the alternator to that leisure battery and charges that while we're driving. If I'm using that leisure battery an awful lot, I also have a solar controller. Now that's not great for Norway, but we were building this car to go down south rather than going up north. We have got a solar controller that takes a solar feed in as well, so charges that leisure battery through solar as well as the alternator. So we have two charges coming off the alternator, one going to that DC-DC converter and one going to the Bluetti Charger 1. And the solar, obviously, you can either plug in a solar or, I don't know if you noticed, but we've also got a solar panel on the bonnet. Have a quick look at that. Okay, so this is the Lensun solar panel. There's two, there was one other, I can't remember what it was now, had a much more expensive one, but didn't have one for the L322. So actually my options were fairly limited. Either I get one for a different car, like a Defender, which is just a square one, or I get this from Lensun. So this has been now on here for about 8 months. I think it's about 8 months, and has been absolutely brilliant. This provides, I think it's about 100 watts, is it? something like that. What it is, something along those lines. It's not a huge amount, but it provides enough to kind of trickle charge. And we did initially have it so it just set up and trickle charge the starter battery, but we've then rigged it up to do the leisure battery. So that's the solar panel. So behind this panel, just briefly, because I don't want to pull it out, this is a removable panel. So rather than the built-in panel that you get, I took that out completely and built my own panel, which is completely flat. And behind that is where I've got all my DC-DC converter, and I've also got my solar converter in there as well. That is for my diesel heater controller, and that there is a very important carbon monoxide monitor, because you don't really want to die peacefully in your sleep in a Range Rover, despite how nice the car is. So that is from the back. This is actually my bed, but again, it's better to show you that from inside. And the rest is quite straightforward. So let me just close this back up again. So welcome to what might seem quite cramped actually, but it is reasonably comfortable. This is the living space of the car itself. So as you can see, we took the seats out, back seats out, which weigh an absolute ton, and created this board here, which replaces that space and sticks out. There's a cutout here, actually. My tools are here at the moment. They'll be shifted when we actually go somewhere. So I'll be able to sit on this, take my boots off, and then sit on my bed. So this is just a memory foam mattress I bought from Amazon. It's like 60 odd quid, which I then cut to shape to fit in with this, with my inbuilt stuff at the back. That is incredibly comfortable. I did do a night's sleep on that, and I think I've got a link to that here as well. But other than that, it's a really comfortable space to be. We've got an LED light, which actually runs really, really well. And again, you can have a yellow light. So if you go into those hotter places where you've got the mosquitoes, you can still run an amber light. That's really useful for there. I've got a place to mount my iPad, so I can sit and watch movies from here as well. And this is my extension lead, which comes through from the Blue ET as well. So I can charge everything I need to do there. I charge my Mac, charge my whatever I need to charge there, and that's fine. This is obviously the diesel. This is where the diesel heat comes from, down here, and it works incredibly well. And that has been, well, I wouldn't be doing the Nordkapp without that, to be fair. In here, we've also got our thermometer, so we can see what the worst it's been. It was 3.9 was the lowest it's been in the last 24 hours, and 14 has been the highest. No real information at the moment because we're not away. And we've got my storage up here for mainly for food and that kind of stuff there, which is just anchored on the sides, and some water. We've also got a toilet, because you never know when you might need a toilet. Just in case, I'd rather have that and not use it than really need it and not have it. So that has also been quite useful. These little netting things came off Amazon as well. I've got a pack of 4, and great for storage, for all the bits and pieces that you need. Because you have to remember, I've got 2 weeks of sleeping in here, but it's not just sleeping in here. I've got to sleep in here, I've got to eat in here, and be in here quite a lot. So it needs to be comfortable to a point where I'm happy to be in here. We've got this netting up here as well, which is really useful actually. So you can shove a jumper at the top here, pop it in, and it's just somewhere else you can store some soft stuff. I did change all of the headlining, so the headlining was falling down, and that was it was quite a mission actually, to be fair. So I bought some Alcantara off eBay. I already had a whole load of spray adhesive from an earlier project, so we did the headlining, got that all changed, and it looks absolutely fabulous. I'm really, really chuffed with that. And then all of the interior plastics as well. So up by the front here, by the switch panel, which we'll talk about in a bit, that's all been painted black as well. All of the A pillar, the A pillar down there, the B pillars, all the seatbelt pillars, they've all been covered in Alcantara as well, which is certainly nicer to be in. So inside, you can see we've got this window cover here. So this is made out of this insulated material, which is foil backed. It's foil on the outside, and this nice material on the inside. I bought a whole roll of that. I think you can buy these. There's a chap who got in touch on the video I put on about this, and I think he was out in Sweden. And you can buy a set for the L322, and it's like £1,500. So I built it for like 100. I had to learn how to use a sewing machine, but we did. So we made all of those for those windows, for the rear window, for these side windows, those side windows as well, and for the windscreen. So we've had plenty of fabric for that. That's been great. We actually had a little bit left over, enough to make a grille protector for the snow, just in case the snow starts being a problem when we're in Nordkapp. So it's toasty warm. So literally you crack the windows down about 1/2 inch. You put your thermal covers on. Nobody can see it. It's pitch black in here. And with the Alcantara lining, it's even nicer. It's quiet. It feels really cozy, and it's a kind of nice place to be. The most important thing, obviously, is when you're sleeping in these things, is to make sure you're not using any of the car battery, because obviously you don't want to wake up in the morning and have your starter motor not used to having your heavy engine not be able to start because your starter battery is dead. So overnight, the car doesn't use anything from the car battery. So we don't, obviously, opening the car door, it will set this light off, of course. But once it's closed, that's it. So I can lock the car literally by leaning across and just locking the front door, but I won't alarm the car. So the systems will shut down, but the alarm won't be on, which suits me absolutely fine. Which means I can still be quite secure in here. Nobody can get in, but there's nothing draining the battery. All of my lights, my chargers, diesel heater either runs from the Bluetti or it runs from that leisure battery in the back. Okay, so through to the front, I've basically tried to make this as user-friendly for me for long drives. The Range Rover itself is an incredibly comfortable car anyway to drive. I've had, I don't even know how many cars in the past. Some really nice cars, I've had some rubbish cars, but honestly, this is probably one of the nicest driving positions I've ever driven, and I've got quite a bad back, so the car itself is already very comfortable, so I didn't need to worry too much about that. I did try one of those pillow things that you sit on to kind of get the weight off your spine, but I found actually the seats were just as comfortable without it. So the car was absolutely great. Got heated and cooled seats in this car. It's an autobiography, so I don't know whether that's standard with these cars. I think it might be, but they work particularly well. So I've got heated seats, heated steering wheel, so it's just definitely ready for the cold. The changes I've made, if we start at the top, as we've mentioned this on some of the outdoor stuff. So this switch panel was from Land Rover Passion, and then we've got 5 switches on here to control the lighting and the air compressor. So these are the 2 ditch lights. So these are just one-way rockers that control the side lights. We've got the compressor as well, which is in the boot, so that's for my air up system. And again, that was under actually where my bed is. I didn't show you that. So I've got an air up system there, so when I want to deflate my tyres, I can get them back up quite quickly. Then I've got my rear lights. So this is the 2-way switching I've got for my rear lights and my spotlights. So the rear lights, when they're down like this, they are ready for whenever I put the car into reverse, they'll automatically come on. The same with the spotlights. I put my high beams on, they will automatically come on. If I put them into that position, they are on now. And as you may have seen at the front there, they're on there as well. So you can manually do them. So the spotlights, they are fed from my starter battery, but the rear lights, they are fed from my leisure battery. It's highly unlikely I'm never going to use these on their own, but either way, it was kind of an option I wanted when I fit these. So this is a purpose-built wiring loom, which I made, and again, I've detailed that in some of the other videos, which I'll put a link into, and they run up through the headlining and down the back when I did the actual headlining of the car. So the switch panel's fine. All this has been repainted black, just a satin black. So all the panels are all black. The only things that are still now cream or whatever colour they were is the sun visors, which are fabric covered, the grab handles, and also the dog guard at the back there, the little catches on the sides there are those things, yeah. So I just need to either paint them or try and find some black ones. The only time they ever came in black was, I believe, so Mark from Overlanding 4-wheel drive, he's got like a black edition, and I think everything in that car is black, even the headlining. I think it's got like it may even have an Alcantara headlining as standard or something, so they kind of threw everything at it, but they're impossible to get. So I'm going to have to either use ones off a BMW, which I think fit, certainly the grab handles, but these, I might get these recovered or something along those lines. But for the time being, they are fine as they are, so they're great. Okay, so working my way down from the switch panel, we've got the Auto Vox rear view mirror. This thing is really actually very good. takes a little bit of getting used to, I have to say. Nobody really talks about this, but this is a particularly good setup. Again, it's all wired up through the headlining. So this has got a rear view camera. So even though my parcel shelf is completely stacked, so I can't really see out the back, the camera is in the boot, and I've done a video on that as well. You can just see it on the window there. So that camera is a really, really good camera, and it does work very well as a rear view mirror. And there's also a dash cam at the front here, which points forwards and also records at the same time. There's a card in here, which records all that kind of data on a rolling process. The one thing that people don't mention with these video rear view mirrors is that your actual vision is slightly different to as it would be on a normal rear view mirror. So when you're looking in a mirror, especially with me, so I wear contact lenses for long distance because I'm short-sighted. So for me, wearing contact lenses, I can see perfectly well out the front of the car. And normally on a rear view mirror, when you look in the mirror, your focal point is actually back there, which is also a long distance away. When you move to one of these video rear view mirrors, your focal point is actually right in front of you. So it does take a little while for my eyes to adjust. If I'm driving long distance, to look there, it's a bit more difficult for my eyes to adjust to actually see that picture. And nobody really mentions that. And I've seen these are starting to become standard on some cars, these kind of like video rear view mirrors. But that is somewhat annoying. Whether they'll ever remedy that, I don't know, with kind of like stereotropic vision or something, I don't really know. But so if you've got particularly bad vision, you might find that a bit disconcerting at first. It's otherwise really, really good. It's incredibly high quality. It literally looks like you're looking out the rearview mirror. So that's the Autovox. I really like that, actually. Continuing down, we built out of some of the surplus aluminium alley extrusion we had, this 3030, from making the roof rack. And basically I bolted that into the dashboard, and we bought these ball socket extension arms to have an iPhone holder or mobile phone holder. I've got an iPhone and one for my iPad as well. So I've got an iPad. It's like it's like an older one actually, but it's just the right size for what I wanted. And I run a kind of a focus schedule on it with some automation, which then splits the screen. So I've got half of it using Outdoor Active or Waze and the other half using Spotify. So it's basically like having Apple CarPlay on my stereo, and that goes to my car via Bluetooth. Speaking of Bluetooth as well, these cars are a bit notorious of, depending on the age you have, there is no kind of Bluetooth connectivity for your phone. On the this is a 2008, on the slightly later models, there's like an iPod jack that sits in here, and you can get a cable for that, and you can plug your phone into it, and it works like an MP3 player basically into your car. And I think the earlier version of my car as well, so like the 2006 and the 2010 and later, you can do it. There's a build I've seen. So Sam's Motor Machine, on his channel, he did a build where you take this out, and there's like another board you can put in the back with another processing unit, and it provides like a second screen that you can skip to with all the Apple CarPlay. My year doesn't have that, so I did contact the company who made that, and they don't actually make one for this car. Now that's just because of the handover between Ford, Land Rover, BMW, all that kind of stuff. So this happened to slip through the net. There is no real easy way of getting Bluetooth to this, so I outsourced it. So my iPad, or normally it's my phone, but my iPad will connect via Bluetooth. So getting CarPlay in the car hasn't been an easy task. So you can literally strip this all out and put it in an aftermarket stereo, which I've done I don't even know how many times before in other cars. The issue with that is you kind of lose all of this functionality, like the 4x4 information that you get with the car, all that kind of stuff, and I don't want to lose that. Some people don't care about it too much. I do. I think there's a lot of information it can give you. So if you're getting an error, and then you can look at the 4x4 and you see one wheel sitting really low, you probably know it's a height sensor, and so on and so forth. So I don't want to lose that. So, but you can if you want. You can just replace the whole thing and put an aftermarket setup in. They do exist. So for my Bluetooth functionality, I've kept it really, really simple. There is a little audio cable here, which leads to a Bluetooth thing I'll show you in a second. And that leads down. I don't think I can actually show you because of the bed, but down underneath here, you probably can't see it now. In every Range Rover, there's an audio in 2 audio in points, or 1 audio in point, I can't remember what it is. And so that leads an audio in for the car itself. So I've changed that into a Bluetooth audio in by opening it up into here. We have this small little Bluetooth dongle, which leads to this audio cable, which changes it into Bluetooth, a Bluetooth input. That's just plugged in to a USB power, 12-volt socket in here, and that works really, really well. So there's no issue there at all. Okay, moving further down, so we've got the cabling. I've cabled things as sensibly as I possibly can, and again, there's quite a lot of cabling. So on the front here, up the top, I've got a USB-C cable. This will plug into my GoPro, which sits down in this bottom right corner, facing out, and it's a batteryless GoPro. So I use that. That's permanently plugged into the car, so I don't need to worry about changing the batteries on that. The only thing I need to change on that is the micro SD card when that gets full. But I'm running 256 gig SD cards, so it's going to take a while to fill them up. So that's one cable. Then I've got 2 others. I've got one which is this magnetic cable. These are the AliExpress cables I've bought, which are magnetic. And then most of my devices have got like the kind of the opposite version of that going into the device itself, and then you just magnetise it on. Along here, I'm also running a lightning cable that is specifically for my iPad. So yeah, so we've got the cabling set up nicely there and routed down. And I've got, I'll probably show you that one in a second. I've got Alexa Auto in here, which is sometimes useful, sometimes not. And that is connected by Bluetooth to my phone, and that basically has a permanent internet connection. So when I'm driving along, if I do want to find out what the weather's going to be like or something along those lines, I can literally ask Alexa and find out what the weather's going to be like. That's kind of my main use case for the time being. I can actually get it to control my Spotify. So I might be able to use that as a hands-free way of changing tracks, but I haven't actually tried that yet. So what else? Here I've got, this is my OBD extension. So with a switch, I can turn it on and off as and when I need it. So this is routed underneath the car, or underneath the pedal covers under here. It goes into the OBD section, difficult one to show. And then I keep my gap tool on my, just here. So whenever I need it, which is fairly often in these cars, I plug my gap tool in and turn it off. I did used to keep it plugged in, but it was getting a bit knocked about, so I kind of left it off there. I also kept knocking the switch as well, which left it powered on. Because it's Bluetooth, it just drains the starter battery. So several times I come back to the car and I've drained the battery because I've left that on. So I leave it unplugged now. It's safer up there, doesn't drain the battery. So that is that. In the front seat, ready for this trip, I bought one of these caddies kind of thing that sits in, seat belted into the car, just keep my general bits and pieces. I've got my CB there to communicate with all the other guys. I've got a little mini fridge bag here, de-icer, because obviously where I'm going. Mug, I've got my out-in, this is a coffee machine. My God, you've got to get one of those, that's brilliant. And I've got somewhere to put like a cup and all that kind of stuff. So it's just a really useful little thing. Down at the bottom, I keep my snow chains, my first aid kit, my recovery gear. I've also got some spare screen wash at the moment. One of the things of travelling in Europe is that I've heard that they get particularly funny if you haven't got your high-vis jacket to hand. Say, for example, if you've got a recovery kit, one of those Euro recovery kits with a warning triangle and all that kind of stuff, it's one thing keeping that in the boot, but you have to have your high-vis jacket before you get out the car, and you will get a fine. And it seems to be something that's quite common. So I've got my high-vis jacket down there. In fact, actually my recovery kit is down there as well. So the only other thing that I forgot was the inclinometer. So this is actually a digital inclinometer and GPS speed as well, which I can transfer into kph, which is quite useful. So when I'm traveling in Europe, I've got that right in front of me. The inclinometer is really useful anyway. It won't be particularly useful for this trip, I hope not. But it's good for things like Salisbury Plain when we're sort of going a bit in the ruts, making sure I don't tip the car over. So that's been pretty useful too. I think that's it for the front, and let's do a bit of a sum up. Okay, so that is my Overland build. You might think I'm crazy choosing a Range Rover. I've got lots of reasons for choosing a Range Rover, and I think I've got quite a few opinions as to why people seem to think they're so bad. I'll probably touch on those in another video one time, but for the time being, this is Frank, and fingers crossed I'll make it to the Arctic. Okay, so if you're still with me at this point, thank you so much, because I know it's been a long video. Hopefully it's been useful for some people. If you're thinking of converting a Range Rover, or you're thinking what an insane person he is, that's just as good. I very much appreciate you watching the video. If you'd like to see more of this kind of content, please do consider subscribing. I'm nearly at that point where I'm at 500 odd subscribers, which is absolutely brilliant. And it would be great if I could start earning some money from YouTube, so please subscribe. If you think I'm doing anything wrong, or you've got any ideas, or you see things and you think, actually, I've done it a different way, I do actually appreciate your comments. So if you've got any ideas or things that I've done wrong, please do let me know, sooner rather than later, preferably before I get to the Arctic. That would be great. If you'd like to know any more, please get in touch. I'm happy to share links, information, and yeah, hope you enjoyed the video, and really appreciate you turning up. Thank you.